All right. This is serious. Oh boy. Damn. 93 people. Whew. All right. Yeah, my name is Cody and I'm an alcoholic. And I guess I'll kind of qualify myself. I always get mad when people do this, but I do it, so it's a little hypocritical. Anyway, I was given a sobriety date of December 29th, 2021. I have a sponsor. He knows he's my sponsor. I have a home group. It's in Horsham, Pennsylvania. I don't think anyone here is even from PA. Maybe if you are, message me. And but it's a men's meeting. I just saw some girl's hand go up. Uh, and yeah, like today, I have the honor and privilege of taking other men through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and most importantly, today I can, I can help people. Right? Like my whole life, I never was accountable, responsible, any of those ables, and today it looks a lot different, right? And but anyway, I'll get into my story a little bit here. Yeah, like I grew up middle class family. Alcoholism and drug addiction run rampant. Also in my story, there's a lot of um, talk of drugs and a lot of other things, but I was taught to respect Alcoholics Anonymous. Now I don't know how this meeting is, but I'm going to keep it in the bottle, so every time you hear me talk about drinking, it's a coin flip. It could be anything, so I think that adds a little fun to it as well. Yeah, like I grew up in an alcoholic family. Drinking was normal. Drinking a lot was normal. There was a lot of abuse, mental, physical, the whole nine when I grew up. I grew up in a broken home, just me and my mom. And with all due respect to her, like she had a lot of boyfriends and a lot of her own problems, right? So it was just chaos, all throughout the house all the time. I had a stepdad who was severely alcoholic and yeah, just a lot of abuse and stuff like that. So I guess the whole point of me saying this is just really there is no point because this isn't why I drink, but I guess like alcoholism became normal. I thought that's what every family did because that's what all my buddies their families did, and that's just what we did like growing up. Right? We'd go over to somebody's house, we'd watch football, and we were drinking, or the parents were drinking. I haven't drank yet in my story here, but yeah, so probably when I was about, 11 years old is when I like, um, really got into it. And for me, it was like a movie. Like, I fell in love right away. Um, my stepdad would always ask me to go out and grab him a Heineken out of the fridge. And, the good guy I am, I'd crack it open and I'd take little sips. Now, when you're 11 years old, little sips are pretty big sips, and you get drunk pretty fast. And, that's my story, right? Like, I just started drinking from 11 years old and I would sneak it. I was real good at sneaking everything. And I'll get into that a little bit later in my story. But yeah, like that's when I really started drinking, like, um, a lot. Is when I was, yeah, like I said, I would sneak it and this and that. And I yeah, I fell in love, right? Like I fell in love with the way it made me feel, the way it made me interact, the way it made me think that life like was sort of for me in a way. Like my whole life, like I'd never felt okay in my own skin, and then alcohol and other things came around, and it made me feel okay for the first time in my life. I deal with suicidal ideation like ever since I was a young kid. My mom's told me stories, after I got sober of like you were like 3 years old hanging a cord around your neck, like wanting to kill yourself. And um, and I apologize if that like offends anyone or whatever, whatever. But that's just my story. And so like when I put alcohol into my body, I felt okay. And yeah, so middle school, high school. I'm trying to make this quick because I got this damn timer in my face. But I yeah, I like failed everything, all school. I didn't apply myself at all. I just applied myself to drinking and doing other things. And I was real good at sports growing up. I was a really smart kid. I just never applied myself, and because alcohol took took a hold of my life very quickly. And anyway, fast forward a little bit. The feeling of okay that alcohol gave me at the ripe age of 11, like that faded real fast, and I didn't feel okay again. I wanted to kill myself again, and my solution was not working. And so, you hear it all the time, but like I'm a typical Alcoholics Anonymous story. In and out of psych wards, in and out of rehabs. Like I just like yeah, just like a crazy childhood. And but thank God for that now that I think about that. And but anyway, one time I remember I got out of the psych ward, and actually I think it's funny. When I went into the psych ward, it was me and 19 girls. And yeah, I'll let your imagination kind of figure that one out, but it was wild. And I remember I'm sitting in there, and I did a lot of isolation because I couldn't look another man in the eye, let alone a girl. And I'm sitting in the room at the psych ward, and I see on the wall it says no change, no change. And I had seen that a million times. I had I'd seen it on Facebook all the time, but for some reason it was just glowing on that chalkboard. And yeah, that's just one of those like little God moments. Now, granted, I didn't believe in God, and I'd love to tell you I got out of that psych ward, stayed sober, and here we are today, but that's not the case. I got out of that psych ward. I stayed sober in spite of my mom. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm depressed. If you were this depressed and you had this shit of a life, you would drink the way I drank. And what's funny is my mom did drink the way I drank. My mom's also sober. So, yeah, in hindsight, that's kind of funny, but it's a beautiful thing. Like, yeah, AA's really touched my life in so many different ways. I'll get into that in a minute, but yeah, so I got out of the psych ward, stayed sober for about 6 months. I didn't care, I didn't care about being sober. To hell with that. Um, so yeah, I started drinking, and just it came back full force. And I'm drinking and doing other things super hard. At this point, I think I'm 17 years old. Just I could sit here and like bore you guys with my war stories, but I'm not gonna do that. But just know, like it was crazy. Like I'm from Philadelphia, um, and I don't know if you guys know anything about Philadelphia and how like they kind of get down, but it's wild, like and I was wild. So yeah, I remember, I was 18 years old, and this is sort of like what happened. Uh, I remember my mom was sober. She had a couple years under her belt, and she's doing the right thing, and she's trying her best. And I'm just disrespecting her. I'm drinking in her house. I'm rude as all can be. And like I remember, she used to tell me good night, and I used to be like, "Fuck you," like what am I doing? Like I didn't give a shit about anyone besides myself, right? If I had my alcohol, I was good. Maybe she'd get a fake like "love you, good night," but it was all fake. It was all bogus or whatever. And yeah, I just remember she kicked me out of the house. She started going to Al-Anon, and doing all these different things for herself. And she came to the realization that she couldn't be around this anymore, right? And I was of legal age, so she had every right to kick me out. And she didn't kick me out. I guess that's just like some bullshit thing I say because it's easier to say. But she gave me like it was like, you get clean or you get the hell out type of thing. So I don't know if that's an ultimatum. They have a weird word for it in Al-Anon that I don't know. But yeah. So I'm 18 years old, living out on the street. I was out for about 2 months, and it got dark quick. Like every night. Every night I remember like I wanted to stop drinking so bad, and I just couldn't. And that's really where I realized that I had an issue. People have been telling me this since I was, 15 years old, that I was an alcoholic, and, I had drug problems. I remember the person in one of the psych wards I went to was like, dude, you don't have depression. They were like, dude, you don't have depression, bro. You got you got substance abuse disorder. And I'm like, are you kidding me? No, I don't. And yeah, they were right. But um yeah, so I'm out on the street, right? And I think I'm the big bad wolf out there, like, oh, I'm Mr. Independent, and like, man, I just remember like how lonely, that I don't think I'll ever forget that feeling, of just how lonely it was out there. Like, I'm 18 years old, and like, only thing I want is my mom, and she kicked me out, and like, my whole family disowned me, all my friends disowned me. The couple I had at the end there, because nobody wanted to be around me. I was a pain in the ass, stealing, whatever. I was just everything you could think of. I was just going for it, and yeah, I remember, you know, uh, there was a few nights when I was out there that, like, I tried to take my own life, and I remember last night I was out there, right? I was about to do it, and I was like, you know what? Like, I got this thing in my head where it was like, give your mother a call and ask her for help. And mind you, she had me blocked the whole time. And for some reason, she unblocked me that night. She's told me ever since I got sober. And I called her at like 3:30 a.m. Just nuts, like, what am I doing up at 3:30 a.m.? But anyway, um, I called her, and I just asked for help, like, please help me. And it's interesting because in my 18 years of living up to that point, I had never in my life asked for help. Like, I graduated high school with a point 0.8 GPA, like, nobody, I didn't ask for help. I thought I had it all under control, and I was wrong. Um, and so when I asked for help, she was like, "Bam, I got a rehab set up for you." And um, just a beautiful thing, like, I thought all these people hated me. And my sobriety date's December 29th, 2021. And so that way, when she was like, all right, you can come back, sleep here tonight, and you're going to rehab, whatever, the next couple days. And it was actually the day before Christmas that I came back. And, the woman that I thought hated me, and my whole family that had disowned me at this point, didn't allow me around, didn't answer calls or whatever. They all had gifts for me for Christmas. And like, yeah, I mean, it's super sweet, right? But it just proves how damn delusional I was. Like, I had no idea what was going on. I was just doing drugs and drinking. And that's all I cared about. And I only cared about myself. I guess I didn't even care about myself. I just wanted to drink. Anyway, yeah, so then I went to rehab, um, 18 years old, and I'd been to rehab. I did this rodeo before. This ain't my first rodeo. I remember I used to tell everyone. Um, and I hear people say that all the time, like when I go take commitments to rehabs and stuff, and whatever. And yeah, I just remember like sitting in that rehab and being like, what the hell is going on? I think I was beaten down and broken so much out there in the car, and like really accepted and realized that I was an alcoholic, that like I don't know, like some type of willingness just opened up, right? And there's a line in the book, and it talks about like, it might be a story, I don't know what it is. I'm not great with the book, but it says, sobriety entered my life. This is so butchered, but it says sobriety entered my life, and I took it and I ran with it. And at that moment, right? Because when you're first getting sober, and I see it a lot, like, you have this little window of willingness. And I still thank God till this day that I took action, on that little window of willingness, because if I hadn't, God knows where I would be. And so, yeah, I started relating. I came in with an open mind, and I started relating to people, like, and I would talk to the techs at the rehab, and go to all the groups, and like, I was in it to win it, and like, um, I got out of there, and I went to a sober house. And in that sober house, there was 30 other dudes, right? And I'm like, oh man, that was crazy. But I actually just went back up and visited them recently. But anyway, like, I saw people like taking action, right? Kids who claim that they were just like me, like, had recovered, and I don't know why And like, I'd go to these meetings and I don't know why, but for some reason, like I saw the people in the meetings, their heads were held up high, and like for some reason I believed you guys that this stuff worked. And from there I got a sponsor, went through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous in order. Um, hold up, I got some rain or something. Yeah, so I went through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous in order. And my life started getting better, right? And I wish I could wow you with, this dude had me in a headlock and was like, go speak at the meeting. But that's not the truth, right? I just took action on what you guys told me to do. As simple as that, right? And I still continue to do that today. And today I have a connection with a higher power, right? And my main focus in life is serving God and serving others around me, right? Whatever that looks like, to the best of my ability. And to the best of my ability, I don't know what the hell that means, right? I hear that a lot, like, oh, I tried my best. It's like, today I can genuinely say that, I do these things to the best of my ability. I don't use it as like a cope out or a cop out, which I'd done before. And like I skipped through a lot of that shit and just went to the present day. But yeah, so I've been sober 3 years, 9 months, and whatever. I don't know. I'm bad at math, but regardless of the fact is that none of that was perfect. Like I screwed up so much in AA, right? But I didn't drink, and I continued to be honest, right? Honesty is a big one for me. The secrets do keep you sick, and I've seen it time and time again, right? Like I have good friends in this program who have went out. I have people in this program who have helped me beyond belief, right? And they went out. I got a lot of good friends who have died to this disease being in Alcoholics Anonymous. And for me to think that for a second, like uh, that I'm different, right? Oh, I'm not gonna die. I don't have to pray today. I don't have to speak at this meeting at 9:30 at night because I'm tired. All that shit. Like, this is what I have to do. Um, this is just what I have to do. This is just my life today. Um, and I was always so worried when I came in, like, oh, I don't want my life to only be AA, and it really isn't. But it kind of is at the same time, and I love it. Like um, Alcoholics Anonymous has really provided me with everything I have in life today. Literally everything. I went to rehab with a pair of Tivas, which are, for people who don't know, uh, like sandals, a pair of pants, and a t-shirt and a hoodie, and that was it. Right? Trash bag, the whole thing. And like every single thing I have today is because of Alcoholics Anonymous, and God, of course. And um, I'm a little upset. This damn timer, man, it's getting on my nerves. But uh, I'm upset I wasn't really able to talk about God too much here, because that's definitely the most important thing. But I'll talk about how I came to figure out what God meant to me, and different things like that. Um, I was talking about, I just took action on what you guys told me to do, right? And you guys told me when I came into the program, I said, God's bullshit, this and that. If God was real, my dad wouldn't have left me, and all this bullshit. You guys know the deal, I'm sure. And you guys just said, it don't matter. Like, doesn't matter what you believe in, right? Just pray. And for some reason that clocked in my brain. And so I started praying. And at first, you guys told me it was all just direction that you guys gave me, like, asked to stay sober a day, and thank him at night. And that was it, right? And then that obviously grows. And there's a line in the book, and it talks about, how do you enlarge your spiritual life? And it says through self-sacrifice and helping others. And that is today like one of the most important things in my life. Granted, I mean, you can ask any of my friends. Luckily, none of them are on here. Maybe there's a few. Some people know me on here, but like I don't do any of this shit perfect at all. Um, it's just a one day at a time thing. And yeah, so that's how I got a conscious contact with God, right? Is through self-sacrifice and helping others. I'll end with this, but there's a line in the book which is my favorite. And I've had a lot of hard times in sobriety, right? I got sober at 18 years old. I'm 22 today. And, like the growing pains of sobriety and all these different things have really, um, it's been a lot, right? And there's a line in the book, and I'll end with this, Mr. Timer. And it says, when all else fails, help another alcoholic. And with that, I'll close.